A multitude of significant events have unfolded across the globe, and today we'll delve into some of the most impactful developments. Specifically, we'll examine a potentially landscape-altering proposal concerning citizenship in the United States. Stay tuned as we explore the intricacies and potential consequences, and remember, we'll offer concluding thoughts at the end of this analysis. Do you believe being born on American soil automatically confers American citizenship? That fundamental understanding might soon be challenged. Donald Trump's latest proposal isn't merely contentious, it carries historical weight. He is targeting the very core principle of citizenship, proposing to deny it to children born within the United States if their parents are not citizens themselves. This isn't envisioned through legislation passed by Congress or a public vote. Instead, the plan suggests achieving this monumental shift via an executive order. This concept is far from a marginal notion. It represents a direct confrontation with the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Should this challenge prevail, it could signify the beginning of the end for birthright citizenship, as it has been understood for over a century and a half. Prepare yourselves, because the implications of this battle extend beyond legal frameworks. They touch upon personal identity and belonging for millions. Please ensure you watch this video through to the end, as we will be summarizing the key points and offering our conclusions on this complex issue. Donald Trump's newly proposed citizenship framework marks a potentially radical departure from established tradition. Throughout his political career, Trump has consistently positioned himself as a disruptor, an individual who thrives on challenging the established norms and shaking the foundations of the status quo. Now, in a development that has startled both supporters and detractors, he is aiming at one of the central pillars of modern global identity: dual citizenship. During his initial term in office, Trump demonstrated a relentless commitment to enacting stricter immigration policies. He pursued controversial travel restrictions targeting several nations, floated the idea of revoking birthright citizenship via executive action, and consistently promoted policies reinforcing an America First ideology. This time, however, he is escalating his approach significantly. Trump's latest proposal seeks to completely dismantle the acceptance of dual citizenship. His argument posits that no individual can genuinely serve the best interests of the United States while concurrently pledging allegiance to another country. In his perspective, holding passports from two different nations inherently creates divided loyalties, presenting a security risk in an era where global allegiances face increasing scrutiny. This policy shift, according to Trump, is crucial for safeguarding American sovereignty and preventing undue foreign influence. This stance isn't merely a spontaneous campaign slogan. It's a meticulously calculated extension of his established nationalist viewpoint. For many years, Trump has consistently framed discussions around immigration and citizenship through the prisms of loyalty, perceived purity, and governmental control. By specifically targeting individuals holding dual citizenship, many of whom possess profound connections to both the United States and another nation, Trump is actively attempting to redefine the very essence of what it signifies to be an American citizen. The potential repercussions of such a policy shift are nothing short of seismic. Should this policy be implemented, millions of Americans could find themselves compelled to make an agonizing choice: either renounce the citizenship linked to their ancestral homeland or forfeit their status as American citizens. This dilemma would impact a vast spectrum of individuals, from second-generation immigrants deeply connected to their heritage to binational families navigating lives across borders. The emotional, legal, and diplomatic fallout stemming from such a forced decision would be unprecedented in modern American history. Legal scholars have already begun raising serious questions about the practical feasibility and constitutional validity of Trump's proposed plan. Dual citizenship, while sometimes complex, has historically been tolerated, and in many practical aspects, supported by U.S. law and practice. There isn't a requirement under current U.S. law for a citizen to choose one citizenship over another. In fact, a significant number of dual citizens have served with distinction in the U.S. military, made substantial contributions to the nation's economy, and held positions requiring public trust and security clearances. The fundamental question arises: can their allegiance genuinely be doubted solely because they hold a second passport? This challenges the long-standing acceptance of multifaceted identities within the American fabric. Critics strongly caution that this proposed policy could backfire dramatically. It risks alienating not only citizens within the U.S. who hold dual nationality, but also crucial global allies abroad. The United States, fundamentally, is a nation built by successive waves of immigrants, founded on the principle of diverse identities converging under a single flag. Forcing individuals to shed integral parts of their identity, their connection to heritage, family, and ancestral lands, would be, in the eyes of many, a direct repudiation of that legacy. It could damage the very cultural mosaic that has historically defined American strength and dynamism, potentially leading to social fragmentation and a loss of the rich contributions that come from cross-cultural connections. Despite the significant legal hurdles and potential backlash, Trump's base might perceive this proposal as another demonstration of bold leadership. For some of his core supporters, this could be viewed as a necessary step in the ongoing effort to, in their view, reclaim America. To this segment of the electorate, the focus isn't on the potential division caused, but on what they perceive as unwavering devotion to the nation. Whether this proposal ultimately gains legal footing or remains a provocative element of campaign rhetoric, one aspect is undeniable. Donald Trump is once again pushing the boundaries of the debate surrounding national identity and belonging. In doing so, he is igniting a fierce and deeply consequential discussion at the very heart of what it means to be American in the 21st century. Is this the potential end of dual citizenship as we know it? Or is it another calculated maneuver in Trump's playbook of political theater? The answer remains uncertain, but the conversation itself is already reshaping the political landscape. The proposed crackdown on dual citizenship by Donald Trump isn't merely a politically charged idea. It threatens to unleash a legal firestorm of historic proportions. As the former president intensifies his rhetoric concerning loyalty and national identity, a critical question emerges. Is this action legally permissible? The concise answer, according to most legal experts, is that it faces immense constitutional challenges. At the core of this issue lies the U.S. Constitution itself, which treats citizenship as a fundamental right, particularly under the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause regarding birthright citizenship and subsequent Supreme Court interpretations concerning loss of citizenship. This is not a right that can typically be nullified by a president through an executive order alone. The Supreme Court has consistently established precedents indicating that citizenship, once granted, cannot be revoked arbitrarily or based purely on political ideology or affiliation with another nation. In fact, the U.S. government's current power to strip an individual of their citizenship is exceedingly limited and confined to specific, narrowly defined circumstances. For instance, U.S. citizenship can be revoked if it was acquired fraudulently during the naturalization process, such as by concealing material facts or willful misrepresentation. Another instance involves voluntary renunciation, where a citizen formally gives up their nationality, usually by signing specific documents before a U.S. consular officer abroad, demonstrating a clear intent to relinquish citizenship. However, simply holding citizenship in another country has never, in itself, been deemed sufficient grounds for revoking U.S. citizenship under established law. The principle generally followed is that loss of citizenship requires voluntary action demonstrating intent to abandon U.S. nationality. So, what procedural steps would actually be necessary for Trump's plan to materialize into law? It would necessitate far more than executive willpower. To fundamentally reshape the legal framework surrounding dual citizenship, Trump would require legislative action from Congress. This involves not just securing a simple majority vote in both the House of Representatives and the Senate, but almost certainly overcoming potential filibusters in the Senate, which demands a supermajority, a formidable obstacle in today's sharply divided political climate. Such a significant alteration of U.S. citizenship law would likely require the passage of a new act of Congress, meticulously drafted to withstand legal scrutiny. That represents an incredibly challenging legislative undertaking, given the current political polarization and the profound implications of the proposed changes. Furthermore, if the proposed changes were deemed to conflict with existing constitutional protections afforded to citizens, the path would become even more arduous. Trump and his administration would need to pursue a constitutional amendment. Amending the U.S. Constitution is an exceptionally difficult process, designed intentionally to require broad consensus. It necessitates approval by 2/3 of both the House and the Senate, followed by ratification from 3/4 of the state legislatures, currently 38 states. In the current hyper-polarized environment, achieving such widespread agreement on a topic as fundamental and potentially divisive as citizenship seems almost a political impossibility. Legal scholars concur. Enacting such a policy isn't just improbable, it's akin to scaling a legal Mount Everest. The constitutional safeguards around citizenship are robust, reflecting its status as a foundational right. However, let's consider, purely for the sake of argument, that a future Trump administration, perhaps following re-election, discovers a pathway to implement even a modified version of this proposal. What would be the immediate aftermath? Lawsuits, an avalanche of them. Civil rights organizations, immigration lawyers, and potentially thousands, if not millions, of directly affected individuals would instantly flood the court system with legal challenges contesting the policy's constitutionality and procedural validity. Foreign governments could also become entangled, asserting that the policy violates international agreements or creates diplomatic crises for their dual national citizens residing in the U.S. or for U.S. citizens abroad. The ensuing legal battles could span years, potentially decades, ultimately reaching the Supreme Court for a definitive ruling. The precedent set by previous court decisions, consistently upholding the rights of natural-born and naturalized citizens, suggests that any attempt to broadly strip citizenship based on dual nationality faces an extremely high bar for legal justification. Who precisely gets caught in the crossfire if such a policy were enacted? What is the human cost of potentially ending dual citizenship? If Donald Trump's proposal to eliminate dual citizenship ever became law, its impact would transcend political discourse. It would manifest as a life-altering predicament for millions. Consider the children born into multicultural families within the United States. Across the nation, countless children are born to immigrant parents. Under current law, the 14th Amendment, they automatically gain American citizenship by birthright. Simultaneously, they often inherit the nationality of their parents' home country, creating a dual identity from infancy. In Trump's envisioned framework, this dual identity transforms from a bridge between cultures into a perceived liability. Should his policy advance, these children, who have known no other home than America, could be forced into an impossible choice: sever ties with their heritage or relinquish their future in the United States. Imagine the emotional turmoil of compelling a teenager to renounce their connection to a grandparent's homeland, the language, the culture, the family history, merely to retain their place in the only country they've ever truly known. Now, consider the millions of U.S. expatriates and global professionals. In today's interconnected global economy, vast numbers of Americans live, work, and raise families overseas. Many acquire second citizenships for entirely practical reasons: to navigate foreign legal systems more easily, comply with work permit regulations, access local services, or simply feel more integrated into their host countries where they might reside for extended periods. For these global citizens, Trump's policy would essentially penalize their international engagement. Practicality would morph into punishment. They could be compelled to abandon one citizenship simply to comply with a new U.S. mandate, potentially disrupting established careers, severing family ties built across borders, and uprooting lives meticulously constructed internationally. The policy could inadvertently discourage Americans from pursuing global opportunities, hindering both personal and professional growth for many. Ironically, even some of America's most dedicated public servants could find themselves targeted. U.S. military personnel and diplomats born abroad, often to American parents serving overseas, frequently carry dual citizenship through no active choice of their own due to birth circumstances or parentage laws of other countries. These individuals have risked their lives in service to the United States, represented its values on the international stage, and upheld its interests abroad. Yet, under this proposed policy, their loyalty could be questioned. and their legal status thrown into doubt simply because of the circumstances of their birth or the nationality laws of another country. To suddenly label these individuals as potentially disloyal based on a second, often passively acquired citizenship is viewed by many critics not only as unjust, but as deeply offensive and disrespectful to their service and sacrifice. Finally, think about the many naturalized citizens. For countless immigrants who have gone through the rigorous process of becoming American citizens, proudly taking the oath of allegiance, dual nationality is often not a sign of divided loyalty, but a connection to their past, a bridge linking their adopted home with their heritage, family, and cultural origins. Trump's policy would effectively demand they burn that bridge. These individuals, having already demonstrated their commitment to the U.S., would be forced to renounce the country of their birth, often severing deep emotional and familial ties, potentially losing connections to relatives, cultural practices, and personal history. This forced renunciation could be perceived as a betrayal of the inclusive promise often associated with becoming an American citizen, creating a sense of alienation among those who chose to embrace American identity while still valuing their roots. The consequences extend beyond the individuals directly affected, potentially impacting social cohesion and the broader understanding of American identity itself. The logistical and bureaucratic nightmare alone would be staggering. Implementing a policy forcing millions to renounce citizenships would likely lead to immense administrative gridlock within government agencies like the State Department and USCIS. It would trigger a deluge of lawsuits challenging the policy on constitutional grounds, potentially clogging the courts for years. Furthermore, it could spark numerous international disputes, as other countries react to the implications for their own citizens and their relationship with the U.S. The emotional and psychological toll on individuals forced to choose between their identities, families, and futures would be immense and deeply damaging. Families could be torn apart. Individuals might face impossible choices regarding inheritance or family care in other countries, and the sense of belonging for millions could be irrevocably fractured. Beyond the human cost, the economic impact could be severe. Foreign-born entrepreneurs, highly skilled tech workers, and international investors, many of whom hold dual citizenship, contribute significantly to the U.S. economy through innovation, job creation, and investment. A policy that perceives them as a potential threat or forces them into complex legal binds might deter them from doing business in or immigrating to the United States. Innovation could stagnate, crucial talent pipelines might dry up, and the very idea of the American dream, long a beacon for global talent, could lose its international appeal, potentially harming America's competitiveness on the world stage. In the pursuit of appearing tough on security, Trump's plan risks alienating the very individuals who contribute immensely to America's economic and cultural strength. Is Trump's proposal a genuine strategy or mere political spectacle? As bold as the plan to end dual citizenship may sound, many political analysts suggest it's less about feasible policy implementation and more about political maneuvering. To these observers, this is vintage Trump, employing provocative rhetoric to energize his core supporters and seize control of the news cycle. By targeting dual citizenship, Trump revisits a familiar narrative that resonated with his base in 2016. The notion that American identity is endangered by forces like globalization, immigration, and perceived divided loyalties. This move powerfully reinforces his America First branding, appealing directly to the anxieties of voters who believe the nation is losing its cultural cohesion and sovereign control. It's a message designed to consolidate his base and project an image of strength. This proposal may function more effectively as a campaign lightning rod than as a realistic legislative priority. Regardless of whether it ever translates into actual law, it sends an unambiguous signal to his supporters. He remains willing to challenge established norms and shake the system to protect what he and they define as core American values. His strength politically has often stemmed from his ability to shift the national conversation, dictate the terms of debate, and rally his followers around polarizing concepts. The controversy itself can be a tool, galvanizing support and keeping him at the center of attention. However, make no mistake, this proposal is far from universally embraced, even within conservative circles. While it ignites enthusiasm among his most loyal followers, it has also provoked significant backlash across the political spectrum. Legal experts, civil rights organizations, numerous members of Congress, including some Republicans, and immigrant advocacy groups have voiced strong opposition. The criticism centers on the plan being legally dubious, potentially unconstitutional, ethically problematic, and practically unworkable. At the heart of this criticism lies a growing apprehension that this policy is not only legally questionable, but also morally troubling, potentially harming millions and damaging America's global standing. Critics argue forcefully that dual citizens are overwhelmingly contributors, not threats. They enrich American society through entrepreneurship, global connections, cultural diversity, and even dedicated national service, including in the military and diplomatic corps. Many dual citizens have proudly worn the U.S. military uniform, served in governmental roles, and acted as crucial bridges between the U.S. and other nations. To suddenly cast them as potentially disloyal is seen by opponents as not only unjust, but offensive. Moreover, the legal and constitutional hurdles required to eliminate dual citizenship, potentially needing an act of Congress with a filibuster-proof majority, or even a constitutional amendment, are immense, making implementation highly improbable. The U.S. Constitution does not explicitly forbid dual citizenship, and courts have historically upheld the rights of individuals to maintain multiple nationalities. A sweeping policy forcing a choice would likely trigger years, if not decades, of legal challenges. What's next for dual citizens caught in this political crossfire, and how can they prepare for the ensuing uncertainty? For those holding dual citizenship, the ambiguity generated by Trump's proposal can understandably feel unsettling. While the idea remains, for now, just a proposal and not enacted law, the potential implications are massive and warrant attention. Legal experts strongly advise staying informed about any developments. Keeping personal documentation, such as passports and birth certificates from all relevant countries, organized and up to date is crucial. Actively monitoring potential policy shifts and proposed legislation related to citizenship is recommended. Consulting with experienced immigration lawyers can provide personalized guidance and help individuals understand their specific rights and potential vulnerabilities based on their unique circumstances and the laws of the countries involved. These proactive steps can help individuals stay ahead of any potential developments and navigate the complexities that might arise. Beyond the immediate legal technicalities and practical preparations, this debate cuts to a deeper, more fundamental question about national identity. At its core, it forces a reconsideration. What does it truly mean to be an American in an increasingly globalized world? Should the United States compel its citizens to choose a single national allegiance, potentially severing ties to heritage and family? Or should it embrace the complex reality of a modern world where individuals naturally possess multiple connections, personal, professional, and cultural, to different nations? This isn't just about passports, it's about belonging, identity, and the future definition of American society itself. As Trump's proposal continues to fuel national and international conversation, it's evident that this complex issue isn't disappearing anytime soon. The ongoing discussion surrounding citizenship, loyalty, and national identity is set to significantly shape political discourse and potentially impact policy for years to come. Millions of dual citizens are left observing this debate, wondering about the future implications for their lives, their families, and their sense of place in the world. Will this proposed change ultimately reshape American identity, or will it remain another contentious but ultimately unrealized political gambit? What are your thoughts on this critical issue? Will this proposal redefine what it means to be American, or is it primarily a strategic political maneuver? Share your perspective in the comments below. If you found this analysis insightful, please like, share, and subscribe for more updates on this and other significant global topics. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.